Café Networking Podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. And today we talk with Adrian Knight, and he's joining us from Leicester, England. Adrian Knight, an acquisition entrepreneur, buys and sells businesses for a living, and he has used his acquisition skills to build a children's education group as founder and CEO of Spectacular Group. So Adrian, what skills do you need to be successful at small business M&A?
Yes, Tom, it's a great question. So the number one skill that you need to be successful at buying small businesses is the ability to relate to people. So a lot of people think that it's about the finances, and of course, the finances are a major consideration when you are buying or selling a business. However, the going in with a finance-led approach is not the way to approach buying a small business. Mm-hmm. The correct way to do it is to go in and to understand what the motivations of the business owner are. Why are they looking to sell? How long have they been looking to sell? Why now? For a lot of these small business owners, this is their life's work. Mm-hmm. They've been building their businesses for 15, 20, 25 plus years, and they are looking to essentially pass the baton on to someone else who can take over and run the business. But they won't just give that to anybody, and equally, it's a lot harder to sell their small businesses than they realise, but they don't often realise this until they try to sell their small business.
And I think that's worldwide. The reality here in Brazil is the same. We're talking small businesses. Generally, they are one or two person owners. They're family businesses. As you said, traditionally, the person who started it's been in it. Sometimes they consider it as a real estate transaction. And everybody always thinks it's worth more than it really is.
Yep.
And I'm not as good or bad, but that's the feeling, because there's the emotional content of having created it. Obviously, for the person who has done it, that's value. From anybody wanting to buy it, not necessarily so. So I think it becomes really a skill to handle that, and the emotional content of the owner really needs to be understood, I think.
That's absolutely correct. And the key word that you've used twice there is emotional. And that's the difference between buying a small business and buying a larger business. You see, many of us think that buying a business is about going in with the financials and paying this amount rather than this amount. But for a small business owner, it's emotional. And so you have to go in with an emotion-led approach to buying that business. And that's the right way of doing it. And when you are able to do that, then you are quite often able to agree deals that allow you as a buyer to essentially minimize your risk. So that could be putting no money down on buying the business, or it could be structured in such a way so that you're not having to take your life savings and remortgage your real estate in order to buy the business, which I would never, ever advise someone does.
But to that end, it becomes, from your standpoint, also transaction. You buy on one side and then you sell on the other. And maybe depending on it, you can stay in the middle for a while. You could be part of whatever you feel that business could be. And I think that's also part of what people are looking for. Well, do I want to stay? Do I want to help grow? And what I've seen here in small businesses, the major challenge is growth, is scaling. You run to the point where I can do more, there's more market, but unfortunately I don't have the resources to do that. And so that's the drive. I want to do more, but I can't.
Absolutely, and that's a very, very common problem that I see. And so what I tend to do is I will buy a business and I'm more focused on the business turnaround. So I tend to look for businesses that are stressed or even distressed, go in and fix those problems, and then I will make a decision as to whether I want to keep this business, or more often than not, I will look to sell it on to someone who wants to then take that ship that's, in a bit of a more steady setting, and then for them to grow that. So, but growing and scaling is the number one challenge most of these small businesses face. And I've I've realised and recognised that one of the best ways of scaling a business is buying another one and putting them together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the growth. And I think from where you
Yeah.
stand, obviously, you're in the situation of being in the control tower. You're seeing everything that's going. So you can see similar types of businesses in different places eventually that could have synergies where the individual owners really don't have a chance to find that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I look at businesses across different sectors as well. So for our children's education group, if I wanted to invest in the marketing, then there's two options. I can build out a marketing team internally, or I can look to buy a marketing company and to integrate that. But a lot of business owners, to your point, Tom, like they just wouldn't have that visibility that would even be an option to them.
Mm-hmm. And it could be, like I say, you're saying you're in Leicester, but you could be in London, you could be anywhere, and you can have contacts anywhere. So you don't physically have to be in. So smaller businesses tend to be physically in a place.
Yeah.
They're local,
Yeah.
they tend to be local, and that's it.
That's just it. And I'm very lucky because I've used business acquisition as a way to scale my business. So when I decided to go into the children's education sector, I've grown entirely through buying businesses and business acquisition. And as a result of that, we went from a complete standing start to a multi-million revenue and a team of nearly 20 people in just over 24 months, which then immediately put me in a position where I don't have to be in the business because there's an established team there, rather than spend the 10 years getting up to that point, probably even longer, to be able to do that. So it's been it's
and now and the overview, when you're talking children are everywhere and they need to be educated, and then one thing builds on another. So I think those become the building blocks of acquisitions, as you mentioned. So
absolutely, yeah.
Very good. Well, Adrian, I want to thank you for sharing your time and experience. Where can our listeners find you?
Yes, so social media is the best place. So I'm very active on Instagram, actually. So my handle is Adrian J Knight. That's Knight with a K. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well, which is Adrian John Knight.
Very good. Well, thanks again.
Thank you, Tom.
And again, for our listeners, it's Adrian Knight, Adrian, the last name Knight. And as he said, you'll find him on LinkedIn as Adrian John Knight. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at their site, focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.